Right friends, welcome back to the first session of Banking Awareness Current Affairs. Every week, one day we will have this session. Most of you might have seen the 30 lectures of banking awareness. In addition to 30 lectures of banking awareness, we covered several aspects in questions and answers and true false discussion also. As and when you find time, please view those modules. At the same time, insurance was presented with around 5 modules. Please view them also, and from now onwards this series will continue. So, this banking awareness current affairs series is basically to track various banking awareness events during the past 1 week, and this is the first session for 2017. It will be numbered 1 by 2017, 2 by 2017 like that, and it will continue right up to the year end, and subsequently it will start again with the series 1 in 2018. So, now the first lecture is 1 by 2017, and this will be highly useful, and please do not forget, you should have clear idea about whatever I taught in banking awareness 30 lectures. Whatever I taught in banking awareness 30 lectures, that must be in your mind, because basic concepts are inculcated there. So, basic concepts, please refer to those lectures, and here I am concentrating on whatever the events occurred during the past few days, right. So, this is the first lecture for 2017, that is why I have taken some issues pertaining to important issues of February, March also. In future what we will do? We will take major issues first, it will be followed by minor issues, because in banking parlance there will be some major policy decisions and some minor issues will also be there. So, we will cover both major and minor every week for around 30 to 35 minutes. The first one is RBI's monetary policy on 6th April. This RBI's monetary policy, this is the first for this financial year, and as I have already told in this morning's lecture, 2-3 important aspects are very important. The first aspect is this inflation target is fixed by the central government to RBI. Central government gave inflation target of 4% plus or minus 2%, valid up to 31st March 2021. This is one important aspect, and another important aspect is this is as per consumer price index. Do not forget these things, and now the monetary policy committee should take steps to maintain inflation between 2% and 6%. Accordingly, they have to devise their monetary policy. Then point number 2 is, now the monetary policy constitutes 6 members, 3 RBI, 3 external members, and this change was brought by amendments to RBI Act. Amendments to RBI Act 1934, these changes were brought, and at the same time, please do not forget, if there is a tie between 6 members, tie among the 6 members, RBI governor will exercise the final vote, and this monetary policy committee members, these are appointed for 4 years, cannot be renominated. So, these aspects please understand when you look at monetary policy committee and inflation targeting, because these two things took place last year. Then if you look at the salient features of monetary policy of 6th April, this repo rate is as it is at 6.25%, reverse repo rate is increased slightly to 6%, and marginal standing facility at 6.5%, bank rate at 6.5%. So, these are various policy rates and reserve ratios. I am not explaining what is a CRR, SLR, what is repo rate, reverse repo rate. Please go back to banking awareness modules, they are clearly explained, right. Second issue pertaining to the current affairs. Government linked permanent account number and the Aadhar from July 1, 2017. So, from 2017 July 1, some changes took place, or you can say some changes are going to take place. First and the foremost is for applying for permanent account number. You may have a doubt, what is the permanent account number or PAN number? PAN number is given by the income tax authorities. So, the biggest problem at present is there are several duplicate PAN cards. Several duplicate PAN cards are there across the country. To eliminate that, the government took a decision to link permanent account number with Aadhar. Then second point is for filing income tax returns and for applying PAN, it is mandatory. That means Aadhar is mandatory from 1st July 2017. And third important point I have not mentioned here, please listen carefully. Previously, for giving donations to political parties, the companies, the maximum limit is 7.5% of their profits. For the past 3 years profits they will see. Previously, the companies can give not more than 7.5% of their profits as donations to political parties. Now, it is increased to, that means now I cannot say increased to, that limit is removed. Now, that 7.5% limit is removed, that is one point. The second point is political parties cash donations. Previously, political parties can take cash donations from anonymous persons up to rupees 20,000. Now, it is reduced to rupees 2,000. Then third important aspect is now a limit is imposed on the gold finance companies. All of you are familiar with Muthoot Finance, Manappuram Finance. Now, if the gold loan exceeds rupees 20,000, please listen carefully, these are the things I have not written here. If the gold loan exceeds rupees 20,000, they have to pay either by check or bank transfer. Previously, it was rupees 1 lakh. So, these are important changes. And another important aspect which came into force from April 1 is for single transaction. The maximum cash limit is rupees 2 lakhs. For single transaction, the maximum cash limit is rupees 2 lakhs. You cannot pay more than rupees 2 lakhs in cash for single transaction. It must be in the form of either check or bank transfer. So, these are important changes made in recent times. Third one is credit linked subsidy scheme. This is very important. This Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana credit linked subsidy scheme. There are two aspects here. The first one is for economically weaker sections and low income group categories. Please look into this slide. Economically weaker sections are the people whose annual income is up to rupees 3 lakh. If it exceeds rupees 3 lakh, annual income I am talking about, if it exceeds 3 lakhs up to rupees 6 lakh, they are categorized as low income group. Economically weaker sections, low income group. So, for these two categories of people, government previously announced in 2015, for these two categories of people, government announced credit linked subsidy scheme. So, somebody may ask you what is S in CLSS, what is L in CLSS. Here you may have a doubt, what government will do. Here you see, if you are taking loan up to rupees 6 lakh, I am talking about these two sections, EWS and LIG. If they are taking loan up to rupees 6 lakhs, then interest subvention, this word may be familiar to you, because this word we quite often use in agriculture loans. interest subsidy you can call, interest subvention or interest subsidy of 6.5% on housing loans to EWS and LIG sections will be given. So, government will give interest subsidy of 6.5%. If the interest is 8.5%, you have to pay just 2%. Remaining 6.5% will be paid by the government to the bank. That is a credit linked subsidy scheme. So, maximum loan is up to 6 lakhs, tenure is 20 years. They should not own any other house, that is the condition. This was announced in 2015 and recently government came up with this credit linked subsidy scheme for middle income group. Previously we talked about low income group and economically weaker sections. Now this is for credit linked subsidy scheme for middle income group. Middle income group, there are two categories. One category is middle income group 1, that is whose annual income is more than rupees 6 lakh and up to rupees 12 lakh. MIG 2 are middle income group earning more than rupees 12 lakh up to rupees 18 lakh. So, this is MIG 1 and MIG 2, and government came up with two interest subvention schemes for MIG 1 and MIG 2. So, for MIG 1 category, interest subsidy will be 4% for loans up to rupees 9 lakh. Previously we discussed loans up to 6 lakh for EWS and LIG, they have interest subvention of 6.5%. Now for loans up to rupees 9 lakh, you will have interest subsidy of 4%. And for MIG 2 category, the interest subsidy of 3% will be there for loans up to rupees 12 lakh. The maximum time period is 20 years. So, the crux of the matter is government wants to push housing sector because government's aim is housing for all by 2022, right. So, these are interest subvention schemes or interest subsidy schemes announced by the government to economically weaker sections, low income group, middle income group, right. You are clear? Please go through these PPTs if you have any doubt. Fourth one is small savings schemes. Quite often small savings schemes questions will be asked. Here all these are examples of small savings schemes. They are maintained as a separate account. 2-3 things I would like to tell you. This small savings account is within the purview of Ministry of Finance. Second point is Ministry of Finance revises interest rates once in 3 months, and from April 1 onwards this year, from April 1 onwards it revised, and there is a reduction of 0.1% in comparison to the previous quarter. So, previous quarter Sukanya Samruddhi was 8.5%, now it is reduced by 0.1%, it is 8.4%. Senior Citizens Savings Scheme is 8.4%. So, here what I mean to say is small savings schemes are maintained with separate account. It is Ministry of Finance which maintains or regulates these small savings schemes. Interest is announced once in 3 months by the Ministry of Finance, and normally these are to be pegged to government securities yields. That is different, and if you do not understand, please leave it. And here what you are required to know is what are various types of small savings schemes, and questions can be asked about this Sukanya Samruddhi and Senior Citizens Savings Scheme. Please do not forget Sukanya Samruddhi and Senior Citizens Savings Scheme, they enjoy highest interest rates among the small savings schemes. Their interest rate is 8.4% as on date. Let us have brief about Sukanya Samruddhi account. It is part of Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. It is basically financial security to the girls, can be opened in the name of girl child who is an Indian resident. NRIs are not allowed, and account can be opened up to the age of 10 years only from the date of birth. And if you look at others, minimum is 1000, maximum per annum is 1,50,000, maximum period of deposit is 14 years, and remaining conditions I have given here. Some of them may change, and please take note of any changes if at all they appear. So, important aspects I discussed. Then next one is Senior Citizens Savings Scheme. Senior Citizens Savings Scheme is minimum age at entry is 60 years, can be relaxed to 55 years in case one opted for voluntary retirement, basically to save the retirement corpus. This is in fact meant for. So, this can be opened in any post office or designated branches of public sector banks. Then along with ICICI Bank, individual cannot invest more than 15 lakh, most important from examination perspective. Here individual cannot invest more than 15 lakh under Senior Citizen Savings Scheme. Minimum age is 60 years. This is basically for retirement corpus. Then here tenure is 5 years and can be extended for 3 more years. These things are important. Let us look at the next one. Classification of banks based on population. Quite often we hear about Tier 1 branch, Tier 2 branch, Tier 3 branch. What exactly the meaning? Here you see Tier 1 is 1 lakh and above population. If the population of the town is 1 lakh and above, if a bank is situated in that town, that branch is known as Tier 1 branch. Similarly, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5, Tier 6. Tier 5, Tier 6 are known as rural branches. So, the bank branches situated in the rural areas where the population is up to 9,999, they are known as rural centers. Semi-urban 10,000 to 99,999. Urban centers 1 lakh to 9,99,999. Metropolitan centers are 10 lakh and above. So, this is how banks classify, because there are several rules and regulations with regard to deposits, with regard to withdrawals, with regard to ATMs, with regard to minimum balance. They are sometimes based on rural, semi-urban, urban, metropolitan, and sometimes based on Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 like that. So, you should have clear idea about it. And bank charges from 1st April. This is another area you should not forget. Some banks revised minimum balance. I listed out in these PPTs. Some banks revised minimum balance in the centers of metros. In fact, State Bank of India revised minimum balance to 5,000 rupees, and in rural centers it is rupees 1,000, and minimum balance is revised for some banks, and at the same time penalties are also stipulated. So, they are based on rural, metropolitan like that. So, that is why I gave you what is exactly the classification of bank based on the population. Then please go through this. From examination perspective, this may not be that important, but what is important is what the banks are doing. ATM transactions, major changes in ATMs transactions I have given here. Please go through them. For State Bank of India, I have given here major changes in ATM transactions, how much they are going to charge if the transactions exceed free transactions. On its own ATMs, State Bank of India increased charges in financial transactions beyond free transactions to rupees 10 from rupees 5. Previously it was rupees 5, now it is rupees 10. So, then charges levied on other ATMs is beyond free transactions is rupees 20. Then another important aspect is cash transactions at the branches were minimized. So, for beyond 3 deposits in a month, State Bank of India for beyond 3 deposits in a month is going to charge rupees 50 per transaction. And similarly, this HDFC and ICICI Bank have also allowed certain free transactions in the bank branches, and if someone is going to deposit cash beyond free transactions limit, then they will be charged. So, this came for lot of criticism. Then merger of 5 associate banks and Bharatiya Mahila Bank from April 1. Here in examination, certain critical questions can be asked. Out of these 5 associate banks, which is the oldest? State Bank of Mysore is the oldest, and which of the subsidiary is going to celebrate, if it exists, its centenary, that is the State Bank of Patiala, and which is the latest? Like that questions can be asked. More than that, Bharatiya Mahila Bank was established in 2013, it was also merged, and out of these 5 banks, State Bank of Hyderabad and State Bank of Patiala are previously 100% owned by SBI. So, please remember certain aspects because merger took place from 1st April, and for the remaining banks, State Bank of Bikaner and Jaipur, State Bank of Travancore, State Bank of Mysore. So, for these 3 banks, there was some swap mechanism for shares. If you have State Bank of Travancore shares, you will be given State Bank of India shares. So, this is a swap mechanism. At the same time, SBH and State Bank of Patiala, there is no point of swap mechanism because they are 100% owned by SBI, and Bharatiya Mahila Bank fully owned by Government of India, their 4.42 crore shares of SBI for every 100 crore shares of this Bharatiya Mahila Bank, right. So, this is the swap mechanism. Some critical questions can be asked on this. State Bank of Hyderabad and State Bank of Patiala prior to the merger are 100% owned by State Bank of India. Merchant discount rate is into the news. Here, merchant discount rate for transactions up to rupees 1000 is 0.25% maximum, that is the limit. For transactions, you are going to some market, you are purchasing something at a value of rupees 800, and here merchant transaction, or you can say merchant discount rate is 0.25% maximum, and for the transactions of rupees 1000 to rupees 2000, it will be maximum of 0.5%. So, what is merchant discount rate? Merchant discount rate is the commission charged by the acquirer bank to the merchant. This is charged by the acquirer bank to the merchant. Please look into this. Merchant discount rate. If I am purchasing something, my bank is the State Bank of India, consumer bank. My bank is State Bank of India, and I went to the shop. There POS terminal is established by ICICI Bank. So, bank which established POS terminal. Then the third one is payment platform. Payment platform may be Visa or RuPay or MasterCard. These are all payment platforms. So, if I am making some purchase, please listen carefully, if I am making some purchase, the merchant discount rate will be deducted, and the merchant discount rate which is deducted by the banks will be shared by 3 persons or 3 institutions. One is consumer bank, that means my bank. Second one is bank which installed POS, or you can say acquirer bank. Third one is payment platform. These 3 will share merchant discount rate. So, this is very important and the limit is capped, right. Look into the next one. Fraud of 25 crore rupees in Bank of Maharashtra. And previously, please do not forget, lakhs of debit cards were compromised because of malware attack in Hitachi switch. In Hitachi switch, there was malware attack sometime back, and then almost 28 lakhs or 32 lakhs. Some figures finally arrived at 28 lakhs. So, some newspapers say 32 lakhs. Anyhow, figures are not that important. Lakhs of debit cards were affected because of malware attack in the Hitachi switch. Subsequently, it resulted in the compromising of debit cards when debit cards are placed into ATMs. Now, this is different type of problem. This problem is the Bank of Maharashtra occurred, the problem occurred due to a bug in its UPI application. Here the fraud occurred after Bank of Maharashtra had procured a UPI solution from a vendor called Infrasoft Tech. Here Bank of Maharashtra purchased a UPI solution from a vendor called Infrasoft Tech, which already had a bug. So, this resulted in some 50 to 60 people figuring out the loophole and siphoning off the money. So, the problem of Bank of Maharashtra occurred due to a bug, right. So, this is one important aspect. Then Bharat QR code, and when you look at merchants, for merchants, because when I am going to the shop, I should have different mechanisms. In examination perspective, please understand, from merchants perspective, various mechanisms are, one is the POS terminal. You can pay the payment by swiping the card through POS terminal. Second one is through this Bharat QR code. You have to just scan the Bharat QR code of the merchant is to be scanned. This is second mechanism. The third mechanism is Aadhar Pay. What you require is your Aadhar number and at the same time your fingerprint. Your fingerprint is the password. So, that is Aadhar Pay. So, these are the mechanisms for ensuring payments at merchant terminals, right. So, this is Bharat QR code. QR code stands for quick response. It is a payment transfer mechanism. Here people will not suffer from card loss or card expiry problems, and here it eliminates the need for POS machines. When you are paying by quick response code, by scanning through quick response code, then this POS terminal is not required. So, please look into the difference. Existing system is through POS terminals, you are swiping the card, and Bharat QR code, you are just scanning the quick response code. And please do not forget, Reliance Retail became the first organized retail chain in the country to accept payments through UPI by scanning QR code. So, please do not forget, Reliance Retail became the first organized retail chain in the country to accept payments through UPI by scanning this QR codes. So, QR code is the mechanism where you will scan the quick response code of the merchant. It is alternative for this POS terminals, please understand, right. So, Reliance Retail launched for the first time, that became the first organized retail chain in the country to launch this quick response code. Please look into this picture, that will be very clear to you. Then the next, please go through this. Consumer can simply open his or her banking app or Bhim app, then he can scan the merchant's QR code and enter the payment amount and enter 4-digit code to authenticate the transaction. Amount will be directly transferred to the merchant's bank account once the transaction is completed. This is about the quick response code. Next one is Aadhar Pay. IDFC Bank became the first one to implement Aadhar Pay. You need not take any credit card, any debit card, nothing is required. What is required is your Aadhar number and your fingerprint. That's all, you can pay the amount. So, this is another mechanism of making payment to the merchants. So, please understand. Here, you see how it works. This picture clearly tells what is required is a smartphone and it should be linked to the biometric reader. That's all, nothing more is required. You see here, Aadhar number is required. Customer's fingerprint is the password. Here the password is fingerprint. So, Aadhar Pay is interoperable banking software application. So, this was first devised by IDFC Bank. Please do not forget. So, these things please do not forget. Bhim app, UPI, *99#, Aadhar Pay, quick response code. All these things are the recent developments and I presented them as a separate capsule, that is various types of digital payments last week. Please view that capsule that contains everything right from NEFT up to Aadhar Pay. Right. After this, next point is government securities. These are G6, government securities. Maximum time period almost 2 years ago is increased to 40 years. Government securities are the safest investments which carry least credit risk. Credit risk, what is the meaning? If I am giving loan to you, you may or may not pay me back, that is credit risk. Here this government securities involve the least credit risk because it is guaranteed by the sovereign government. So, government securities maximum time period is 40 years and they comes with a coupon rate paid normally semi-annually. Coupon rate. And to explain you before concluding this lecture, I will explain you about shares and bonds or debentures. Shares, here you see these are the companies NTPC, BHEL, Mahindra, L&T. Here if these people want to invest, they will invest in these companies and they will get share certificates. That means they are investing in the shares. By paying some money, they are purchasing shares. So, by purchasing shares, the investor will become part owner. If I am purchasing 1000 shares, I will become part owner. And these are called equity instruments. Please understand, equity instrument means that is the investment where the investor becomes the part owner of the company, and if the company is into profits, it will declare a dividend. So, please understand, dividend is the term associated with the shares, and when you are investing in shares, the instrument is known as equity instrument. Quite often you come across various passages, equity instrument and debt instrument. Equity instrument is nothing but when you are investing in the shares, then you will get the certificate. That certificate is equity instrument. And when you are investing in shares, if the companies declare dividend, you will get money regularly. So, here share value will appreciate if the company performs well. At the same time, second advantage is sometimes you may get a dividend also, and exactly opposite is bonds or debentures. There is a slight difference between bonds and debentures. I will discuss in the next week lecture, but here you are giving money to the company, you can say you are giving the money to the company as a loan. So, when you are giving money to the company as a loan, you are the lender and company is the borrower, and in return for your money, they will give you bond or debenture. So, in case of bonds or debentures, the relation is borrower and lender, that is one aspect. And the second aspect here is these are called debt instruments. Please keep it in mind. Quite often we come across equity instruments and debt instruments. These are debt instruments, and bonds or debentures have interest rate which is known as coupon rate. So, they pay regular interest which is known as coupon rate. So, we deliberated about shares or equity instruments, bonds or debentures which are known as debt instruments, and here important aspect is this dividend is associated with the shares, coupon rate is associated with bonds or debentures, and in the coming weeks we will deliberate in detail about various types of shares. There are preference shares, I will deliberate on that, and at the same time when you look at bonds and debentures, what is the difference between bonds and debentures? That is the aspect which you should be clear about. I just taught you about the coupon rate here. In the coming lectures we will discuss about yield also, and share buyback is another word which came to the forefront this year. So, that also I will deliberate in the coming lectures. So, every week, this week I have not taken minor points. From next week onwards, some minor issues will also be dealt with, and these are the aspects. So, please follow regularly and you will be kept abreast with various banking and economy developments which will be highly useful in the exams to come this year. Right. So, with this let us conclude the first lecture of banking awareness current affairs. This will be a regular feature every week, one lecture, and I would like to include minor things like small questions and answers also in future depending on the availability of time. Right friends, I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and please post your suggestions what way you want this lecture to be, and please understand, please listen this or view this after looking at those 30 banking awareness lectures, as well as if your time permits true false, as well as this Q&A also, because they are highly useful to you. Right. So, this is basically to keep you abreast of the developments in banking and economy sector. So, please post your suggestions on this lecture. Right friends, have a nice day. Let us conclude here. Have a nice weekend. So, thank you.